Hey everyone, it's Andrew Schiffman.
Harry Turcott here. We both worked at MTV in the music and talent department in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a time where music videos, TRL, The Jersey Shore, and the Osbournes ruled the airwaves.
Yes, Andrew, those are some great years. So tune in every week as we catch up with old MTV coworkers, record label execs, VJs, and artists.
I can't wait, Perry. We'll give you insights into meeting superstars before they were superstars and some juicy secrets from that golden age of MTV.
So grab your headphones and get ready to relive the era of music television and the people who shaped a generation.
Welcome to the Music Lounge. I love Thursdays. We get to have a new episode. I'm here with my co-host, Perry. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, Andrew. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm in Oasis mania, as the rest of the world is. And hopefully by the time this airs, I would be sitting here very comfy with some tickets in my digital wallet. But right now, I'm thinking about getting up at 4 a.m, trying to get myself some Oasis tickets for 338 days' time.
I wish you good luck with that.
Yeah.
I think most of our listeners understand how passionate you are about the band, and you're the first person I thought of when they made the announcement that they were going to be reuniting and touring.
Amazing. Cool. And we just had an in-person interview, so that was cool. An upcoming guest, maybe we can tease Amelia Gray. We went to her Brooklyn cafe, so by the time this airs, she would have aired too. So
yes,
it was nice to see you in person. But today we're back on the app, and who do we have today?
Today, Andrew, we have Byron Ward, who is the former director of video promotion at Atlantic Records, also former head of video promo at Universal Motown, and currently is marketing at Boom Ventures Agency. Welcome, Byron.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. It's good to be here. You mentioned you had an in-person with Amelia. She's in Brooklyn?
She's back. Guess I'm telling the world, but yeah, she opened an amazing cafe, and it's got a little performance stage. You can go get a latte. You can bring your laptop, do some work. She's got some artwork on the walls, so you can purchase local artists. But yeah, really, really good to see her. It was
okay. I gotta track her down. I miss
do
her.
it.
Yeah, it's a 121 Cafe on Ralph Street in Brooklyn.
That's right down the street from me. Yeah. Okay.
Go there after this taping. What I love about these podcasts, we get to chat with friends and ex-coworkers that we've been friends with for like 10, 15 years. It's crazy. That's what makes these podcasts so fun. We're reuniting with some old friends, and most of them we've kept in touch with, but we've got a lot of history.
It's really great. We were so in the trenches with a lot of these folks for such a long time, and it's so nice to revisit that and catch up and find out what people are doing now.
I agree. I think it's one of those areas where, to your point, Perry, we're in the trenches. Like, we were working multiple artists every day, all year round. And so if it wasn't one artist in January, it was a different artist in February or March. So we constantly were talking and pitching and going to dinners and going to shows and traveling. So it was like, the extended family, which was an amazing experience.
So in your former role at Universal Motown as head of video promotion, the Motown legacy had such a diverse roster. Talk a little bit more about that and your priority artists at that time when you were there.
Well, as we know, Motown was built on Berry Gordy, and it was, it was iconic. And then when I got the opportunity to come over, it was right after, I think it was the Kadar era. They had started to expand outside of R&B. So you had, artists like Blue October, and you had Shiny Toy Guns, which you guys actually championed as well. And on top of that, we still had the likes of Erykah Badu and Nelly, and Chameleonaire at the time. So the roster basically, diversified a lot when I came on board, and I think that that was part of why I was brought on. Why I joined. A lot of Motown was so R&B, hip hop heavy back in the day, and so really building that roster of alternative artists outside of the world of R&B probably was a little bit more challenging on the A&R side. The teams kind of bringing in the diverse genres. I think that the senior execs did a good job in bringing in the right team and signing some really fun and strong acts. I mean, not to say that they didn't lose the path in the urban space, because trust me, a lot of our hits came from the urban side. Continue still.
Did you expand outside of Universal Motown too for any of the work that you were doing, or were you only just focused for Universal Motown the full time you were there?
It was only Motown. Like at the time I came on board, I think they split right before I came on board. Motown and Republic. And so that basically, you had the Littmans. David Nathan was on the Republic side, and so
Hmm.
that was on that front. But pretty much everything I worked on was Universal Motown and any of the sub labels like SRC, which had Akon and those guys.
Some massive artists back in the day. And, you were involved with some emerging artists at the time, like Kid Cudi and Asher Roth. And they pretty much got booked on everything. They were really influential for MTV to be able to break those bands, and probably vice versa. So when you were working with new artists, how important was the MTV support to help you break those artists? Because obviously you were working with other video platforms as well, and there was other formats, radio, but how important was MTV ad, a performance, all of those kind of things?
It was very important, super, super important. I think, even before the Motown days, MTV was super important on the roster at Atlantic Records. I think because video networks had such a stronghold on the music space, people would come home and, they'd watch TRL, they'd watch 106 in Park or whatever the case may be. People were running home to watch these shows. And so the fact that, it was appointment viewing uh, resonated significantly just within the music community. And we knew that, that was our standard. Like a new artist, okay, the goal is get him on the network, and that's when, you got the calls and emails from us, and you got the packages from us, and, the dinners, and, you're sitting in the lounge and you're presenting the artist, and maybe it's an impromptu performance. Absolutely. It was our holy grail is to get added to the network,
Right.
and then of course work it through the fabric of the network, not just get the video play, but have them guest host, have them do interviews and whatnot.
Absolutely.
I think that's what is also important to recognize about that time, was we weren't really following a corporate guideline. If you had someone on your side internally, they would fight for you, they would create an opportunity because they believed in that band. And starting on like an MTVU and getting a freshman five made us look at that artist and say, hey, let's try emerging feature on MTV and see if that works. So we were able to really support an artist across multiple channels, which I think when you had an ad on MTVU, MTV2, MTV, that was a pretty big thing. But what do you think it took to maybe not get a rollout for certain artists like a Shiny Toy Guns, but then when a Kid Cudi comes in, he's just everywhere? Is it the label support? Is it just down to that artist's kind of personality and what's in that kind of DNA of the music?
It's so many variables.
All of it.
Funny enough, Shiny Toy Guns was my first MTV ad at Universal Motown. That was one of the artists. When I did my interview, they played the music for me. I was like, whoa, I love this stuff. And so I was on a mission to get MTV ad with you guys, and we got Buzzworthy And so that was really, that was a big accomplishment, right out the gate at Motown. But, for the likes of Cuddy and Asher Roth, it's also a moment in culture, you know,
Yeah.
at the time when, case in point, Kid Cudi, he had that song Day and Night that was just everywhere in the clubs. You walk down the street, you heard it out of cars. And, he wasn't signed at the time, labels were chasing after him. And so fortunately, we were able to get him at Motown. And he made his video. I think his video, he came with the video. It was a super cheap video that he made, but it worked, and so I think that it was so many variables, but ultimately you guys had your finger on just the pulse of the trends and the culture, and being able to go, okay, Kid Cudi, yes, he works in our system. Asher Roth, I Love College, yes, this works, especially MTV.
So speaking of Kid Cudi and Asher Roth, sort of on the flip side, obviously getting videos on the channels was important, but you also said you brought the artists in for meetings, you brought them in for news, you brought them in for radio. They got booked on a myriad of different shows. How did the artists feel about doing all this stuff for MTV? And specifically, I think both of them did a spring break performance maybe in 2009, kind of stories from behind the scenes of that shoot.
Anytime an artist knew that they were doing work with our team, our video promotions team, they knew that they were going to, do some stuff with MTV. And I think that, that's because you guys had so many platforms, from radio to MTVU to hits to news. Because you had so many platforms, we were able to get a good chunk of their day, and say, okay, we're going to 1515 today. And we would order lunch and, have that ready once they had their breaks in between the meetings and the interviews. But I would say that the artists definitely look forward to that moment of going into that building and knocking out so many interviews, and then being able to see, the results, pretty quickly. And so on that front, that was, we never had any artists go, gotta go to 1515 again. So
I think what we did really well, and obviously Perry's team was very influential, was we really looked at an artist and we wanted to create multiple opportunities. So if you came in at the beginning, we would almost try and map out how we can support this artist throughout the year, not just do a one and done video ad, because we want to present this artist to the audience in multiple formats, right? So, and not all at once. The more that we can spread it out, the more we can kind of build that story.
Yeah,
there was a ton on .com, and we kind of Perry can talk, but we brought a lot of these new franchises for the first time ever, where you were like, downloading music. There was ringtones, there was streaming. The first time this stuff's ever been done.
I was going to give you props. I remember Urge, the Urge days, and you'd spend your day at MTV doing all these interviews, and you had MTV.com and Urge. And I started noticing that a lot of content, a lot of stuff was going on the digital side. And that's what, the radar went up and go, oh, digital, what's this? And so I have to say that was my impetus in moving into the digital marketing space, just because I just saw the future and the possibilities. And so it was those times hanging out with you, Perry, working those interviews on the digital front. And it was great.
No, it was, honestly, from on the digital side, I will admit early on, it was a sort of a bit of an uphill battle at MTV to sort of get both the recognition and support, I guess I would say. But once I think people kind of got it, and not everyone actually did, but once people got it, they would go, okay, well, it's great that we're on TRL when we're on for 10 or 15 minutes and we're getting X amount of views from that particular visit or performance on TRL. But if we do this other thing on MTV.com, it just lives there and people can find it whenever and however they want and watch it 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, whatever it is. And the idea that, the digital space could be sort of this big and broad place where people could find all this content. It did take some people a little time to kind of understand that, but I think once they did, there was full on support for what we were doing on the .com side.
Yeah. When I moved to New York in 2002, I was in the MTV programming and scheduling team, and we launched video on demand at that time. So every show and episode, we would try and get a different version, an extended scene. Everything that we started to toss to MTV.com, we were now thinking of how do we service on demand, which is this brand new thing with kind of, exclusive content. Now it's just everything's on demand.
Everything.
But yeah, it's cool thinking about those times where we really were at the forefront of new innovation.
Well, I also think the idea that MTV had of what the 360 programming was, you were on screens all the time. You were on MTVU, you were on MTV2, you were on MTV, you were on MTV.com. We even did a Second Life type project for a bit of time, and we'd have these bands come in, and this is hysterical, and they would create little avatars of themselves, and they'd be sort of in a TRL like green room, and they would be chatting with fans in this space. And the funny thing is, never failed that one of the guys in one of the bands would create this avatar, and they'd be sitting on a couch like making out with an avatar of a fan or something. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably like a 50-year-old guy sitting in his house, that created this girl avatar to be in this second life space. Yeah, I mean, there was so many different platforms for people to be on.
Now, you guys were able to do catfishing before you came out with the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So going back to Perry's question, with some of those performances, were you there? I can't remember. They were probably Miami or somewhere hot, but any kind of stories with a new artist?
So I was fortunate enough to be at spring break several times. The first time actually was before Cuddy and Asher Roth. That's more of a story, but that was with Fat Joe. And so we have Fat Joe, Ashanti, What's Love. And so that was the big song at the time. And so I just remember when we booked it, it's like, yes, we got Joe on spring break. But then it dawned on me that he didn't fly.
Oh.
Like, how am I going to get him to Cancun?
Oh, no, wow. Yeah,
Right. And so I was sitting there, and I'm sitting there with Linda, and we go, I guess we got to get a bus. And so we worked out. He got a tour bus, and he drove to Cancun. Wow. Drove through Mexico to Cancun. So, me being the planner, I like to schedule things out. I had the routine, his itinerary, and I was like, okay, based on this, you guys are doing X amount of miles a day. I'll be in Cancun on this day. And so, I made sure I was there the day before scheduled arrival. I get there the day before scheduled arrival, go out, have, for dinner and hang out with, you guys down there. And then he doesn't show up the next day. It's like, how do I get a hold of him? Because now, his phone doesn't work in Mexico. I can't get a hold of him. And so now I'm stressed. I'm stressed because, fortunately we padded it, but I'm stressed because, his performance is the next day and there's no Fat Joe. And so all day long, I'm just kind of pacing and emailing and trying to figure out where's Fat Joe, and no one can reach him. He fortunately rolls up literally late that night in the bus, and he goes, "Yo, B, this was a journey." And then he proceeded to tell me that he got pulled over.
Oh.
He got pulled over, and he had to basically pay his way through to get to Cancun.
Wow.
Needless to say, Ashanti flew in. She was good. She was chilling. We got there the next day. He went out and took off his shirt. The
Killed
infamous
it.
topless performance. That was very shocking. But that was a fun story. As far as the Kid Cudi and Asher Roth, it was more. They were just starting, and so this was all new to them. So just being able to take them into this environment, and their just eyes were just so wide. Going, just videotaping back in the day when they had the little hand recorders. They were just videotaping everything, just taking it all in. But nothing wild. They were just new artists coming up, blowing up actually, and just enjoying every minute of it.
As they should. Yeah. We're going to put you on the spot for 30 seconds. Do your best. And here we go. Cash Money or Bad Boy?
Cash Money.
What was your first concert?
Fat Boys, a New Edition.
Godsmack or Three Doors Down?
Ooh, Three Doors Down.
Selena Gomez or Lindsay Lohan?
Selena Gomez.
What was your first album?
First album? Ooh, it was Motley Crue.
Pimp My Ride or Cribs?
Say it again?
Pimp My Ride or Cribs?
Cribs.
Nice. All right. I loved Cribs, man.
Yeah. I mean, I have Cribs stories too.
Let's hear one.
Yeah.
Some of them were faked as well, right? Some were like rented mansions. I remember Robbie Williams.
Yeah.
It was a fake house, but
ours, we did a Trick Daddy down in Miami. That was, amazing. It was a very homely home. It wasn't, what you expect. I think it was like a 4-bedroom spot, and it was, average size. Like you wouldn't think a rap star lived there. And, so that was a good one. That was the first place I had conch fritters, which were amazing. He made it for us on camera. Conch fritters on camera. I was like, let's do this.
You always had a look in the fridge and a kitchen tour, right?
Yep, absolutely. And then you had, I went to Atlanta for Akon's. He had just bought this really big house. And I just remember you walk in the foyer and he had an aquarium with a shark in it.
Jesus.
Underneath it, yeah. So that was a cool one. And then, T.I., T.I. down in Atlanta as well. He walked around. He was doing the Section 8 homes at the time. We walked through the trap. It was definitely a lot of crazy experiences.
He had a great career on MTV. Ended up having, what was it, a show on VH1 as well?
Yeah,
like
Tiny and T.I.
Family. Yeah, Tiny and T.I. Yeah.
I think one of the things that MTV did really well was create really culture-defining shows. Just this quiz you're talking about, Cribs, Pimp My Ride. Those things were just so iconic that they still resonate today. And those are just two off the top of my head.
Well, and then two others. Who would have thought that Ozzy Osbourne would have a second life by doing a show called The Osbournes, right, and that it would create stars out of Kelly Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne, and then taking Nick and Jessica and creating a show for them, and gave them a platform to be a little bit different than people saw them as just music artists.
Absolutely, and I think you guys were the first ones to do reality TV with the
Real World. Yeah.
During your time at Universal, working alongside MTV daily, when did you start to notice an industry shift? Maybe it was the reduction of music videos, but still, still opportunities for your artists, but not in the the video format. And how did that affect your position Universal at the time?
It was it was all the digital stuff that we were doing. You guys were so heavy on the digital space, and then it actually prompted me to go back to school, take some night classes at NYU to get my digital marketing certificate. And so when I did that, I got a better sense of, the possibilities of the digital landscape, where I started rethinking our team, understanding that you guys are moving heavy in the digital space. And, we were making content, but the only content we're making were music videos. But there's so much content that our artists do daily that, there was opportunity there that we just weren't, investing in. And so during I think it was my last year under my contract at Universal, I wanted to reimagine my team and make it more of a content team where it wasn't just about music videos, but creating content that could be serviced on your platform outside of music videos. And so I just thought that labels should be more content producers, so to speak, versus just a record label. And the powers that be didn't really see that vision, so to speak. So that was the time when the flag went up, and I just knew that my days in the music industry were numbered, at least in that situation of not understanding how to be a lot more progressive with the times, with the trends, see the trends coming and try and jump on those. And so with that, obviously, you guys were reducing the videos. You saw the launch of the likes of Vivo, and YouTube was starting to really take a hold of a lot of things. So it's just one of those things where I would say that was probably 2009, 2008, somewhere around there.
So I actually think the biggest trend that the labels missed out on was moving to streaming earlier of audio. I mean, they fought it and fought it and fought it for so long, and they just didn't have the vision to see that this was where everything was going. And I think, there was that period of time, probably between '09 and probably 14, 15, where labels were like hemorrhaging money because they were fighting streaming, but no one was buying CDs. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, let's put our music on Spotify. Well, I mean, they supported iTunes and stuff like that, but they didn't necessarily allow for full on streaming of their music. So, which was unfortunate because a lot of great people, I think, were sort of furloughed at that time from the labels just because they didn't have the money coming in to keep those people employed. And then on top of that, like you were just saying, had your team been able to create content back then, you would have had more content to feed to a YouTube. You would have had more content to feed to, maybe a TikTok would have happened sooner if there was more content that would have been available for it. So it's sort of interesting to sort of look back and go, what were the labels missing out on by being like, well, we have to stick to our Tuesday release dates and put CDs in record stores. And, it was like, it felt very old school.
And now they're all so heavy on content and have creative content teams coming up with campaigns that we were doing 15 years ago. They're like, let's give so-and-so a camera and shoot some behind the scenes of this, or a day in the life of this. And, we can break it up into 6 segments for a series. We're like, come on, we were doing that 15 years ago, and then it was shut down. But now it's like really important.
So one of the last things that I did at MTV was we did, I think it was called 48 Hours or 36 Hours with the Jonas Brothers. And this is sort of the Purity Ring era with them. They had come into MTV on a Friday afternoon. We followed them with actual cameras, but we tried to shoot as much as we could on a phone camera. And we followed them for 36 hours. I mean, we were with them, and that content was being fed back to the control room at MTV. They were editing it a bit, and then we were doing hits all weekend long on MTV with that content from the Jonas Brothers. Like you just said, Andrew, it's like, let's go out and just do this lo-fi shooting of stuff on an iPhone. We're like, yeah, I did that, almost, it was 15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, MTV was always ahead of the curve. You guys were basically disruptors in a sense, when you think about it. And sometimes you were way ahead of the curve to where it took 10 years for the rest of the country or society to catch up.
Yeah, it was a great. We've talked about this before. MTV was one of those great places, especially on the digital side, where there kind of were no rules. No one said no to really much of what we were doing. I never knew what I had for a budget for anything. We just kind of did it. And, it always seemed to be able to pay for it somehow. I don't know really how it happened, but yeah, it was great because we were able to sort of take these chances on things and see if they would work, and some things did and some things didn't, and then you just moved on to the next thing,
You
and
have
it
to
was
experiment, and
yeah, absolutely. you
that's where
know
we are with new tech today. You're experimenting.
yeah, absolutely. But was
Absolutely.
there any tech now that you wish was available back then that you could have implemented with some of your artists, or even like a platform that you thought, this is something that I really could have used when I was back at Universal Motown, and really creating some really cool stuff with my artists.
So I'm dating myself, but I left the industry when this came in, the iPhone. The iPhone had just started to hit the market, and just the capabilities of it all, being able to create content around your phone and in the social media platforms. I think the amount of scale that you guys had, as far as, our biggest artists being everywhere, from the award shows to the beach houses to TRL, people paid attention, and it was just people were starved for more content, for more accessibility, and the only way they can get it was through television, was through you guys. And so if we had phones at around the time, I think it would have just elevated even more. I think it would just be mass hysteria, so to speak.
Like, can you
Yeah,
imagine doing an Instagram live, or maybe we would have plugged into MTV, just the feed from your phone back then? Like, artists would be live constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Because you had such a big megaphone platform on top
Yeah.
of what they're building on their platforms. I think that, in a sense, is massive.
you're doing marketing now. What are you doing specifically, and is it music related?
I am not in the music industry anymore. Boom Agency is a experiential agency. So, we work with brands like Frito Lay and Gillette and Modelo, really helping them ideate, create tactile experiences you know, for their audiences, desired audiences, whether it's B2B or B2C. And so that's what I've been working with for the past 2 years in that space.
I think what's important is, the tool set that you've been able to give yourself from working in the music space can now resonate to other verticals, and it's really valuable, the experience that we all have, and especially in marketing, where we're kind of doing a 360 back to where we were, and really using a lot of those same tools. You have a little bit of new tech to kind of play around with. But
Yeah, absolutely. I think, things move so much faster nowadays than they did in the past. But
yeah,
to your point, what we did, even though we were video promotions, you still had to do a lot of, marketing aspects and media planning, and you really had to wear those multiple hats. So you had to understand, the different disciplines, and build your toolkit, as you say, just to be
Well,
able to maximize the opportunities for your artist.
and I think the other thing too, and this is what I think a lot of people will never have an opportunity to learn, is working with artists can be so unpredictable. And you have to be quick on your feet to figure a solution out, because anything and everything can go wrong. Like you were just saying about Fat Joe, like, that you really have to be able to come up with an answer or a solution or figure something out immediately.
Yeah. You're definitely on your toes. You have to be a quick thinker. and be able to manage stress. Year 2000, we had Little Kim, and she was doing a shoot with Dave LaChapelle for a VMA poster. And so we had
Wow.
firemen, we had the fire trucks, we had the whole setup. And it was like a 10 a.m. call time. Kim, notorious for being late, didn't show up till almost we lost the sun. Like basically it was dusk. So, I'm on the phone all day with her camp and your senior execs, just massaging the situation, talking with Chappelle, and, she's on her way. Meanwhile, she gets there and just
She's on, yeah.
Gets done up, goes out there, and it's a super amazing poster she made. The lighting actually turned out to be better because it's a great time to shoot. I just remember that was probably one of the most stressful days that I had, just getting her on site in makeup and go.
It's funny because artists have such a completely different mentality too. Like we're thinking, why would you not be here at 10 a.m. when that's your call time? And they're thinking, it's flexible. They'll wait for me. Someone in her camp may not have even told her it was 10 a.m. They just said, you're shooting this today. And she's like, oh, I'll show up when I feel like it.
Yeah, my lesson learned on that was I gave them a 2-hour advance on the call times. So if the call time was 10, I told them it was 8 a.m. I'm not doing that again. And they still managed to be late.
Yeah.
Well, Byron, really good talking to you, man. Catching up. Those were some amazing times. You definitely had your feet in a lot of the big wins that we had on the channel during that time.
Yeah, I think you guys are so supportive of our artists. It was honestly one of the best jobs I've had is to work with you guys. Just understanding, it's not a lot of people who did what we did. I think you and I were talking about this. As far as video promotions in the industry, it was maybe 20 of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't let you go before we just quickly mention our 48 hours in London with Kaiser Chiefs.
Kaiser Chiefs, yeah. That was the first and the only time I've been to London. I'm dying to go back.
Me too.
Yes, yeah.
Shameful. That's one of my...
Yeah, speaking of, they were on Motown, and it was, that was them branching out beyond R&B.
Absolutely.
And Kaiser Chiefs, which is amazing. Them, Scissor Sisters.
Well, thank you, Byron, for taking the time. We really appreciate it. We miss working with you on a daily basis. We wish we could do this every day.
Absolutely. I mean, what you guys are doing is great. I love it, and I've been listening to them, so keep it up. I
appreciate it.
Someone told me I need to do a podcast, but I think this will suffice. This is perfect.
We'll give you some content to promote. So thanks for your time, man. Really good to chat. Likewise. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back next week.
Thank you for joining us today in the Music Lounge.
And tune in next week to hear more stories about your favorite era of MTV.